Hello, welcome to the fifth episode of Interface, a series of videos on my encounters with spiritual seekers in India. From the first to the fourth, I have been narrating my encounters with people who fit into our traditional concepts of a mystic. Some of them were running an ashram, others were leading the life of Avaduta, but all of them fit into the category of mystics. All of them conform to our concepts of mystics. Some were saffron clad, some were not, but there was a thread of similarity binding all those people. But today, I am going to narrate my experience with a unique mystic. This man was, or at least it seemed, was leading a temporal life as any one of us. But in fact, he was a mystic also. He was a seeker, a spiritual seeker. Is this the first time? Is this the first time that the world has known about such a person? Absolutely not. In Mahabharata, actually, there are mentions of people who led normal lives but were spiritually enlightened people. King Janaka was an example, one of the greatest examples. Then again, there is mention of a butcher whose story was named as Vyadha Gita in Mahabharata. This happens in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, where sage Markandeya was telling his story to the eldest of Pandavas, Yudhishthira. So, people who lead normal life, who lead temporal lives, getting enlightened is nothing new in India, the history of India. But here I am saying my encounter with such a person. It happened almost 2 decades ago. Then I was coming from Delhi to Kerala by Kerala Express. At that point of time, not even Mangala Express had been started. So this was the only train which was connecting. I mean, there could be one more, but that was a weekly train. The only daily train service between India's capital, New Delhi, and Kerala, which lies at the southern tip, was Kerala Express. That was a wonderful day. I mean, perfectly nice day. Then, when I got into the train, it was a third air conditioned AC three-tier compartment. In our cubicle, there were, which could seat 8 people, there were only 6 people. So everybody was relaxed. There was not much luggage and there was not much rush also. The train started from New Delhi, and I think by the time it reached Meerut, we started interacting among ourselves. A man who looked like a typical Malayali and a quintessential Malayali was sitting opposite to me. So I smiled at him. He also smiled at me. He was short, squat, wheatish. Perfectly looked like a Keralite. So I didn't have any hesitation to speak to him in Malayalam. I asked him where he was going. The man smiled at me and said, though I can understand Malayalam, I am unable to reply to in Malayalam. I am a Tamil person from Kanyakumari district. So I didn't feel surprised because Kanyakumari was once a part of Kerala. So I thought that this man is an ethnic Keralite, but now happened to be in Tamil Nadu. But he could read my mind. He said, I'm actually not a Malayali who is native of Kanyakumari. I'm a Latin Catholic, I come from a fisher family. And then he added, wherever I go, people mistake me for a Keralite. So I apologized to him. I Then I started speaking in English. So he said there is no need for apology. And we became very close, perhaps in a couple of hours. So I realized that this man was not an ordinary person. He said he's an engineer. He was an engineer. And he said he was newly appointed in Siemens India. Before that, he was working in Malaysia and afterwards in Switzerland. He's a highly educated person and was an M.Tech from Chennai IIT. He did B.Tech also there. Slowly he started telling me the story of his life. I will say the amazing, mysterious, and inspiring story of his life. His name was Joseph Manikyam. Joseph Manikyam was born in a fisher family near Nagarkoil. Right from his childhood, he showed spiritual inclinations. And by the time he was in high school, he happened to go to Vivekananda Kendra, Kanyakumari, and listen to speeches on Upanishads. That attracted him very much. He started reading Upanishads. By the time he was doing his plus two or something, he used to go to Vivekananda Kendra. And then his new ways actually caused some friction in his family because his family was strictly a Christian family adhering to Christian beliefs and values. His father, who was a headmaster, was not impressed by his son's inclination or gyration towards Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism. But he didn't yield to the pressure of his father. So not everything was very friendly in the family. Among the members, there were some differences of opinion. But Joseph Manikyam was a brilliant student. So that way his parents were happy. And after his plus two or matriculation or intermediate or pre-degree, he got admission in Chennai IIT through an entrance exam. He said afterwards he slowly started distancing himself from his family. He went to Chennai IIT campus where he studied. He took his B.Tech. He pursued his M.Tech also there. So this man was into studies, concentrating on his studies on one side. The other side, he was into spiritual activities. But slowly he said he lost touch with his family. Through campus recruitment, he got into Siemens and he was appointed somewhere in Malaysia initially, where he's worked for a few years and then he was transferred to Switzerland, and from where now he's back in India. Then he said he had a wonderful experience when he landed in Delhi. After landing in Delhi, he had about a week of holidays to acclimatize or what to get himself in touch with India, different aspects of India. He went to the interstate bus terminal there one day and he boarded a bus. Simply he boarded a bus which was parked there and he saw that that bus was going to Rishikesh. When the conductor or the ticket checker came inside the bus, he asked Joseph where he was going. Joseph said, "Give me the ticket to the last point." The conductor was a bit angry. He said, "Are you mad? You don't know where you are going. You don't know about your destination." Mr. Joseph said, "That is none of your business." You take the money. I'm willing to pay the money. I have the money. Where I go is, it doesn't matter to you. Okay, eventually the conductor agreed, handed him the ticket, and he got into the bus. As the bus pulled up at Rishikesh, he got down the bus and wandered around the town. He was looking for a hotel to stay. Then suddenly he saw that a man who was sitting on near a tree, calling him or gesturing him. He went there. The man spoke in chaste English. Mr. Joseph, I have been waiting for you for some time. He was initially he was surprised a bit, but there are mystics who speak English in India, so that way it is not abundant. Then suddenly he realized that how this man came to know his name, so he was a bit perplexed, intrigued. The man said, "You may be wondering how I came to know your name. I know everything." He said, "Joseph, your father is ailing. This time you should go and meet him. And that is the responsibility of a son to fulfill the final wishes of his father. So when you go to Nagarkovil and meet your father, don't stick to your belief, yield to his belief, satisfy whatever he wants, obey whatever he says, fulfill his final wishes, and after his death, you could pursue your own ways." So when I met Joseph, actually Joseph was going to meet his father. I was very surprised to hear the story. Then it actually changed my mood, realizing that Joseph said, "You should not think too much about all these things. Life is full of coincidences, and take life as it is. Don't think too much about it. Don't get too serious about life. Just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. Now you start to hear and see many things which you have not seen and heard till now." I found it interesting, but I said, "Okay, are you saying that everything is planned and perfectly programmed?" He said, "To a great extent, it is like that." Then I asked him, "How could I believe you? Can you prove it?" He said, "Okay, I will give a try." Then he said, "Now you see, there are 6 people in our cubicle. So I will ask them their date of birth." Then he asked each and everyone their date of birth. And to my surprise, I found that of the 6 people, 5 were born in March. So again, I was perplexed. So he said, "Don't take this seriously. There are many things. Life is full of coincidences, or life is full of patterns. But you don't realize these patterns because you are always living in your dreams or in your wishes. Many times you live in the past, many times you are in your future. You don't have time to stay in your present. So stay in your present, and that will give you a new experience, new vision of life." I was very, very much surprised to hear all these things. But I realized that what Joseph said was correct, because he proved it that among 6 of us, 5 were born in a particular month. He said it has been destined that we people will meet at this particular time, this particular date. So, but again he said you should not worry too much about such coincidences, or your life should not be oriented about thinking such things. Lead your normal life. Now you are a student, you are a worker, do your duty. That is what dharma means. So don't think about somebody else's life. Don't think too much about all results. Better you concentrate on the present, and that will give you actually peace of mind also. You will realize how beautiful your life is. So he said life is actually full of patterns and trends. Certain things happen at a particular point. If you think about your own life, certain experiences, we find that at certain point of time we get uh, very good experiences one after another. At some other points, misfortune comes. So that was why Shakespeare wrote, when misfortune comes, they don't come in singles, but as battalions. So these are all patterns in life. Those who are simply sit and watch can foresee many things, but don't worry too much about the results or what is going to happen, because you have very little role in all these things. And you once you realize these things, you become equanimous, and then heavenly peace will descend on you. This was what he said. I still remember Mr. Joseph Manikyam. We met only on that day. I called him a couple of times later, but I lost his telephone number onwards. Then I actually shifted from Delhi to back to Kerala, and we lost touch. But still, I remember his words and his pleasant attitude, and always he said, "You should be a witness. Don't try to be a participant always. Why should you participate in things, in temporal things which are actually not real? So be a witness always, and then you will remain equanimous and nothing will affect you." That is what my experience with Joseph Manikyam, who was an engineer by profession, who lived a normal life like any other temporal person, but he was a seeker, who was a real spiritual seeker. So this reminds me of the story of Vyadha. For those who don't know the story of Vyadha, I will narrate it. Vyadha was a butcher. The story, as I earlier in the beginning I said, the story is there in Mahabharata Vanaparva. There was a spiritual seeker, a Sanyasi, who did penance for around a decade, 10 years in a forest. And one day he happened to open his eye. Somehow or other, a bird who was sitting on the tree beneath which he was sitting dropped on him, or its droppings fell on him. Immediately, the sannyasi became angry and looked up. Because he had so much spiritual power accumulated over years, when he looked up, the burned, the bird was burned, and it turned to ashes. Now he felt sorry for the act, but what could he do? He could not give life to something, he could kill something. Then he got up and he went out, went to the streets as a mendicant. And when he saw a house, he there, went there and asked for alms. Then a lady's voice was heard. She said, "You wait there outside. I am providing food for my husband, and afterwards I will give you alms." The sannyasi got angry. "See, I am a learned spiritual person, and I am kept waiting by an ordinary lady who wants to serve her husband." Immediately, when he thought about that, the lady said from inside, "Swami, don't think that I am like a bird. which turned into ashes when you looked. You cannot do anything against me. I won't get burned if you look at me because I do my dharma. I am doing my dharma. If you get angry, that is your business. Then suddenly the sannyasi realized his mistake and begged pardon. Now the lady said, you go to the market and there is a person named Vyadha. He's a butcher. He will teach you about dharma. So the man was initially hesitant. How could a butcher teach me about dharma? But since he realized the power of the lady, he gave some importance to her words. So he went to the market and he easily found the butcher. Many types of meats were hanging in his uh, shop. He asked him, the butcher immediately cited him and called him. He said, oh, that lady has directed you to me. He was again surprised. How could this man, this butcher, knew that he went to the lady's house and he was directed by her? He said, I can understand everything. That is the power of the universal mind. So the story says that he spent some time with the, perhaps months, with the butcher, and eventually, he learned about dharma and he became really enlightened. So all these things prove that you need not go to a forest or you need not go to an ashram. You need not wear saffron clothes. You need not stop doing everything. The most important thing is doing, following your dharma. So that is it. That is for today. Thank you for listening. Meet you with another experience next time. Till then, goodbye. Namaskaram.